Yo, what's up guys? Skulls Nightshade here. Recently, I have been spending a lot of time in creative spaces. Quite a few of you guys have asked me to make a video telling you guys how some of the advanced features work and just some tips and tricks. Now, I don't know everything, but I know quite a bit for those of you who are new to it or aren't used to systems like this. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I want to talk about is item cost. So if you look in the top left corner, you can see that I only have a small amount of room to place items. And let's talk about that a little bit more. I've made an entire city and I still have room. I've seen people make smaller structures and use their entire cost. The reason is because certain items take up more cost than others. So items like floors, walls, I usually use the rectangle tool for my floors and walls and flatten it so I can get that flat color. Items like that don't cost as much as items with mechanics. And when I say that, I mean stuff like this. So you have like your holograms, you have these walls, the boxes, the points, and then even like if you have the sonic pack, the rings and stuff like that that move tend to use a lot more cost. And let me actually give you an example. So I'm gonna place this box down, so keep an eye on my cost. If I place a few boxes down, that alone, 3 boxes just ate up a lot of my cost. As opposed to placing bricks, I got myself stuck, but I just placed a ton of bricks and it isn't even like a quarter of the cost. Just something to watch out for when you plan out how you want your space to be. Next thing I want to talk about is sharing designs. I feel like sharing designs is a little bit flawed, but it's a really, really cool feature. It just needs a bit of work. So let's go ahead and unshare this design. I can't make any changes to this design while I have it shared to the public. So the first thing you want to do is select the area that you want to share. So you can start it further back, you could start it over here, and then you can move how big or small the area is. For items that are included in the build, you'll see them glow yellow. So before you confirm it and share it, make sure you look around and have everything selected as yellow. If not, it won't be included when you copy it. After that, you can name your design and you can share it. Another thing about shared designs, so let me place down a design made from a friend. This also applies to my own designs if it's not the original. If you go here, you're not able to make certain changes, like you can't change the paint color. You can't change the size or move it around. You can delete the item, but that's pretty much it. So you can't customize any designs that you've placed. Just keep that in mind. If you get a design from a friend, you can always ask them to make it a certain color or something like that before you copy it. That's exactly what I did for this house over here. My friend Alex made this house. We painted it teal. I took the design and then we changed the colors back. Next, let's take a look at holograms. And this was a specific question asked by someone in the comments. You can see I can't place this hologram because I already have 10. So we're going to move an existing hologram that I have. You take your hologram and you place it. From there, you press edit. You can choose the name of the hologram. You can choose what it says. And if you don't know the chat commands, don't worry, because you can technically set them here. So /toge right here is emphasis. If I select that, it automatically puts that in there for you. You have your manga expressions here. Just keep in mind there is a text limit, and if you go past the limit, when your character speaks, it'll cut it off. And then here's my character here. If we talk to her, welcome to Club Nightshade. I'm gonna have to move her back, but we'll do that later. I also have friends here. So the way that it works, you have to give them permission to edit once they enter your creative space. And then they do the same exact thing. They place down a hologram or a decoy, and then they select what it says. Currently, there's no way to make the holograms do any other actions other than speaking. And the position that they stand in, they use the idol that you have equipped when you make that hologram. If you do want to get clever and make it look like you're sitting or something like that, this is not going to be the best example, but you can always change your motions and make your idol something that looks like you're sitting. So example, I'm going to use witch's chair. If you position it correctly, when you make the hologram, you could have the broom clipping into the stairs and it looks like you're sitting on the stairs or something like that. Now let's take a look at some other item mechanics. You can connect switches to items to do things like toggle items on and off, toggle the collision on and off so you can walk through items, and more. Now we're gonna go to the settings tool. Here you can dictate what that item does. So you can have that item display or hide like the other menu, turn on and off the collision, but you have some more settings with these items with mechanics. So you have send or receive connects. This determines whether or not the button works if you press it or if you turn it off. Default switch state off or on, so however the switch starts. So I decided to do the number 11 for this switch, which means if this switch turns on, it affects the item that's set to the same number. So we're gonna set that to 11. And then here we're gonna disable collision. Since this is an elevator, I want people to be able to go through it. So now we press the button and that door goes away. Now for teleporters, let's go to this one. This is my main teleporter. So if you look here, it's set to the number 1. We have it enabled to send and receive connects. And then we have it set to the function. And then we have the function ID set to 1. So when we use this teleporter, we end up at another teleporter that's set to 1. So if you do not have the teleporter linked to anything, as an example, I have this teleporter linked to the number 2, but I don't have any teleporters labeled 2. When you attempt to teleport, it won't let you. But with this one, I have this synced to 3. It sends me here. See? And that's pretty much all I know about the mechanics right now. Creative Spaces is still new, and I'm still testing things out. Next, you have your data pods. So you can put a data pod down. From there, you do the same thing you did before. Press edit. You can type your message here. So now when we take a look, I've seen a lot of people hide these inside of things, so you can select them and get information from them. On the subject of hiding things, I'm going to teach you guys how to make items invisible. So you can do things like making invisible floors, invisible walls, and you can make pretty much any item invisible. So if you go to the item and you select the settings tool at the top, you can hide that item. So in edit mode, you'll still see the item glow. The floor still applies, it's just invisible. You can also do the same thing when it comes to the collision. So let's say I make this still display. So you can still see this, but I turn off the collision detection. When I jump on this item, you can still see it, but I fall directly through it. Now moving on, let's talk about sizing objects. And what I mean is when you're making a floor or walls, you want to make it a specific size when you're building. So what you can do is go to the move tool, select the item, and then deselect the item so it doesn't move. So now when you use the foundation, it's the same size as the item you selected. All right, I want to show you guys painting, but first we need to make it brighter here. So kind of a side note, if you want to change the time of day, you can go here. You can turn off advanced time if you want it to stay that time of day. And we're going to make it daytime. And now we're going to go into painting. So to paint, you're going to select the change color tool, and it will bring up this thing where you can choose from different colors to paint. Let me choose a color that's very different. Okay. So you can choose color 1. Color 2 you can't see right now because it's at the bottom, but some things you can see it more distinctly. And if you want to change things to the same color, then after you select those colors, you press this button right here, and it will make everything you touch with that button. Now let's talk about placing objects. Placing objects can be a bit of a pain with creative spaces currently. Sometimes the controls are a little awkward. There are ways to make placing an object a lot easier, and we're gonna start with a new object that I don't have. We're gonna use this block. When placing an object, you can rotate it, resize it, and you can change how far away the object is from you when you place it. Now, sometimes when I'm trying to place an object on another, the collision kind of messes it up, and sometimes I just can't get the right angle either. So there is a way you could do something about that. Over here in this menu where you select these, go ahead and select this tool right here. It'll open up a menu here showing the overlay grid. So if you want to see the grid or you don't want to see the grid, you can select that here. If you want the items to snap to the grid, meaning when the items lock into a specific spot, you can select that here. It's per block here, which means it just snaps by every block on the grid. This is per half block, so it's a little bit more precise. And then you have turning it off completely. So when you place an item, you can kind of just put it anywhere. It doesn't have to like snap to the grid to be placed. You also have interference with installed build parts. So if you turn this off, it'll make it so you can put items through other items. This makes it easier if you want to do overlapping items like this. Or if you want to be precise and place things yourself. Now you have the build parts rotation angle. So when you rotate an item, you notice it kind of like, it almost feels like the snap does. It has a very specific way that it rotates. If you go back to this menu, you can turn that off. And now when you rotate it, you can be a lot more detailed with how it spins. Next thing is build part scaling ratio. This allows you to play with the size a little bit more. Now you have max build part placement distance. So this allows you to place things a bit further away. If you have snap on, it will automatically snap to the grid even if you have the setting turned off. So let's turn these all back on. When placing items, sometimes mistakes are made and you place something in a spot where you don't like it. I placed the item here, but I don't want this item here. So we're gonna select the move tool and move the item. Now you may notice when you try to place it close to where the other item was, you'll struggle and it won't be able to place perfectly. That's because it still registers this as an item being there. So what you have to do is you have to move that item, take it again, and then now you can place it over there freely. Normally I just delete the item and then place it again. To me, that's a bit faster when I'm building, but you can do it this way too. When selecting items to place, if you look here, it shows you what you can and can't do with that item. So if you notice that there's items that you can't make bigger or smaller, or you can't change the color of, you'll be able to see that here. So scaling prohibited, color change not allowed, meaning you can't change the size of this or the color at all. Or you have this where you can scale the item however you want, but you can't change the color. But yeah, that is all for now. Thank you guys so much for watching my channel. If you're new, make sure you guys subscribe. And everyone stay comfy. Have a fun time building. If you're on Ship 3, visit us in SUSSY Town.